Our pantry is still a little empty from the last challenge, and Walmart didn't really help us save money. So this time, we went to a cheaper option. Wasn't planning on getting these onions, but it was such a great deal that I had to. Mashed beans tend to be more expensive, so I thought if I get them whole like this and then mash it myself, we'll be saving some bucks. But now I needed to add salt to my pantry. It's a very important staple, but I didn't expect a grocery store to charge this much for salt. It was insane! A week later, this was $1.79 for the same brands. I don't know what kind of game they're trying to play, but thankfully, Italians, they know flavor, and they always have salt at a good price. This is what Walmart should have had, and they didn't have it. That $4.99. My original plan was to get butter as my oil base, but it was too expensive. So I grabbed some good old vegetable oil instead. And since I still had some money left, I got the secret ingredient in all the Mexican kitchens, the broth cubes, chicken and beef. All of this total too? $12.53, which after comparing with what the dollar was, it ended up being just under 10 American dollars. Wow.
Stop it. Get some help.
Who does that? Wow. What a jerk.
Why?
I know. Who the heck is this guy? Poor girl.
Why?
Anyway, some of it will be used today, and some will stay in the pantry as we keep growing. And now we have a Mexican secret weapon, beans, a staple in the kitchen, oil, necessary for every kitchen, salt, to take us to Flavor Town, and because you're very generous and you're forgiving me for the mistakes I made in the last video, we've restocked a little bit of our pan. Yes, this was a bigger bag that I bought from Walmart. I used a lot of it now, and basically it's at about the size and quantity that the last bag I had would have been if I wouldn't have absolutely used it all and then wasted most of it. I have onions in the fridge, and with those, we're gonna try to make a nice bean filling. And then we're gonna try to venture out into making an empanada. We'll practice again making a tortilla and see if we can make an arepa gordita style thing with a bit of this. Not all of it, because we can't be wasting our money anymore. In most of my videos, I forget to get everything ready before I start cooking, so I made sure to do that this time. But I want you experts to dictate how difficult this challenge will be. I have a lot of items here that are more than $10 worth, but many were gifts, like the cast iron pan, the cutting board, etc. The only item I actually bought myself was my tortilla press from Amazon, which I've had for years, and the induction cooker from Costco. Still, I want you to decide, what are the rules? What are the parameters for this challenge? The only rule I know will stay is whatever money I save from one episode rolls into the next. Hopefully over time I can save enough to buy better food and maybe even better tools. One can dream. I will admit that one of the biggest mistakes that I have been making throughout this series is that I'm only using one source of heat, my induction cooker from Costco. What? The link's in the comments below for all of these items? How dare you, sir? How shameless of you. Anyway, if you have a stove at home, everything that I'm doing would be way easier. So if you guys ever allow me to transition from my stove, I will. Because using just one induction cooker has made these meals take between 2 and 4 hours to cook. I need solutions. So let me know in the comments. What are we doing? Where are we going with all of this? Here's our items that I think I'll need. I'll see what happens. See if what I have in my head comes to fruition. Yeah, it's looking like a lot of water. Alright, that being said, it's time for step 1.
What we're going to cook now is the family favourite, the children's favourite, water and stock pot. Very simple, it'll take 25 minutes to cook it. To be as genuine or genuine as possible with this challenge, I'm incorporating a clock so you can see exactly how long all of this is taking me. In my mind, it's always a good idea to start with the masa because the longer it rests, the better it gets. But you don't want to overdo it. If it rests for 3 to 4 hours, it starts to taste weird. In the last video, it rested for about 90 minutes. Hopefully, it won't be resting for that long in this one. And if you work too fast, you might forget to add salt, which I did. But it wasn't too late. I fixed it. Push to break. Oh boy, push to break. Oh no!
Did I break this? Pull tab to open spout. Hold on, what? Oh no. Is this the spout? This taught me one thing. It's important to read the manual and instructions. Back to the masa. Salt to taste. You add water gradually until the dough is moist. Like wet Play-Doh, but not slushy. Oppa! That seems like a lot of water. Whoop. It's feeling like a lot of water. I'm gonna go take some of that off because that's too much.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine.
And we're back. Oh boy. That's why you gotta do it gradually. A little bit more water. When you form a ball and press it down, it shouldn't be full of cracks. And this tells you you're ready to go. But of course, you always want to check again after it rests because like here in Canada, where I live, it's extremely dry. And that most definitely always affects my dough, especially if I don't keep it covered. It dries out very fast. Cutting the onions seemed like the next logical step, but some had started to go bad from the moment I bought them until now, which is a few days later. That's probably why they were on sale. The good thing is that onions last a long time, usually. Not super long, but they do last long-ish. You just peel off the bad layers and you're good. And as long as they're not growing other onions inside, you're safe. How do you keep the skins out of here when you're cutting? It's like the most annoying thing when you're cutting onions. Do you have a trick? Because I wanted to cook this as fast as possible, I just cut them into my preferred shape, which is these long strips. Alright, that's about 5 or 6 onions. I wasn't really counting because I'm crying so much I can't see. And I decided to try the technique from America's Test Kitchen, boiling them for 30 to 40 minutes in extremely high heat. But before that, I would soak them in cold water and put them in the fridge because then I thought, you know what? The beans might take longer. So because we're trying to make it to Flavor Town, I didn't just add the beans, but I added my bouillon. Beef in this occasion to get that beefy taste into the protein. I did forget that canned beans already come with liquid. I don't know what this is, whether it be water, oil, who knows. But if I would have remembered this, I didn't need to add water and then the bouillon. So that's a point for next time. We're learning. Every single video, we're learning. The goal was heat them until soft, and then it should be easier to mash. But boy, oh boy, 30 minutes later, still not soft enough. And I was dying over here because my dough is ready to be made. So I couldn't just keep cooking these beans forever. At a certain point, we had to keep moving. So I took away the beans, got the onions out, added those to my cast iron pan where I'm going to be cooking everything. Added some of the bean water to the onions because it has flavor. Then another beef bouillon cube. I cranked that heat up to max. In the American Test Kitchen video, she also adds oil, maybe to prevent sticking later on. I didn't, because I only have such limited oil, and I'm going to need it for a few more videos. So, to experiment, no oil. Hope it doesn't ruin me. On to one of the biggest challenges I had to solve. While the onions are wilting and cooking, I had to mash the beans. So, a question for you experts. If you had to mash beans with no proper tools, how would you do it? I don't have a bean masher yet, because I haven't saved enough money to unlock it. So I thought, fork. It works with guacamole, should work with beans. Yeah, no. After 10 minutes, I decided, you know what? This is just going nowhere. I switched to my wooden spoon. Worked a little better, but man, this was tough, and it was taking forever. Very time consuming, which is bad. It was not working. Then, I had an epiphany. The Ziploc bag. Hands. Genius. Beat him.
Are you sure about that?
Except the beans were still super hot. So, 2nd and 3rd degree burns later, it worked. But there's gotta be a better way. So I need you to please guide me. Let me know in the comments. How could I have mashed these beans quicker, faster, better, and without hurting myself so much? Remember, the tools you saw at the beginning of this video is what I'm starting off with. Can't wait to read what you put down there. 90 minutes in, these onions still had way too much liquid. So I drained some of that water and worked with the rest, trying to boil a little bit of the remaining liquid off, but keeping the flavor. And at the 100-minute mark, it was ready enough. So we set those to the side. 105 minutes into this, clean the pan once more, and onto the tortillas it is. Now, with this specific set of masa that I made, I wanted to see if I could do 4 or 5 things. First, could I make a tortilla puff using oil? Could I make an empanada? Can I make a pupusa, which is a classic Salvadorian delicious thing? And can I make an arepa, gordita, a stuffable pocket that you can open up? So the first step, I cut a Ziploc bag, which would help us spread the tortillas. It's the same old Ziploc bag that we had before. Reuse, recycle. But don't be me. I should get some scissors. Use the scissors. Not today, though. Oh, wow, it's not sharp. Oh, did it just ruin my knife? Man, why? So silly. Oh, come on.
This is not okay. This needs to stop now.
It's just not that sharp, this knife. So silly. Okay, ta-da! So this is tricky, but I like a challenge. That's how we learn. Getting outside of our comfortable zone. So I would have to keep a close eye on this pan to make sure it doesn't get too hot and start to burn our stuff. First test, oil fried tortilla. Now I know from previous experiments and previous videos that when I use my cast iron pan, it takes longer to make tortillas, and also I have to wait for a ring to form around the middle before I do the second final flip. So it's flip within the first minute,
Hold up.
wait, and then flip. And if it's hot enough, it should puff. But this one didn't puff. It just cooked, even after 7 to 8 minutes. So I said, okay, let's move on to the arepa, the gordita thing, because I'm more comfortable with that in the cast iron. But it also took way longer, between 10 to 15 minutes. At this point, I was getting a little bit discouraged, because I didn't feel like I knew what I was doing. But when I'm using my stove and when I'm using a nonstick, things just work out easier. However, putting a lid on it did help, because it keeps the moisture in. And when you're making this sort of stuff like gorditas or arepas and you want them to puff up, you need that moisture so that when you do the second flip, which is the important flip, it'll just try to escape through the top and inflate. But because this arepa gordita took 10 to 12 minutes, I determined to just only make one, move on to the next thing. Which now that I saw that there's not really a lot of oil left in my pan, I gotta make a tortilla puff on cast iron. It's just one of those things. Gotta do. So 285, 250 Fahrenheit, and 2 flips. First flip within the minute, second flip. This one took like 6 minutes until the second flip because I wasn't seeing the signs. And there you go. It puffed, which gave me a boost of confidence. Okay, I'm not that lost here, but I still have to do the final and biggest challenge. The pupusas and the empanada. Man, oh man. It's a cool puff though. Now I don't cook with this much oil often, so this would be a huge learning experience. And yes, it burnt me quite a bit, but the only way to learn is to fail sometimes and just keep trying. And we did a lot of that. Our first empanada, I thought this might not be so hard. If I just make a thicker-ish tortilla and then stuff it a little bit, not too much, fold it in half, close it up, should be fine. But I got a few leaks in there. And I don't think my oil was hot enough. Or I don't feel comfortable cooking with oil. I just don't. So this first one wasn't that great. But the principles were starting to develop. I was starting to see them. Took a break. I decided, okay, let's try pupusas.
No, brother. What's that?
Again. Another fail. And it was using a lot of my dough. So I said, no more pupusas. Let's focus on the empanadas. If we're going to master something today, it has to be the empanadas. So although the first one kept opening, I kept trying and trying. Made the tortilla a little bit thicker, bigger each time as well. Carefully. Didn't stuff them as much. And eventually, they started to come out. Pretty nice, I might say. Frying, I don't know much about. Somehow I thought that the sweet spot is between 355 and 400 degrees Fahrenheit to fry. But maybe it was Celsius. Either way, I'm no expert, but I did realize that it's a listening exercise, as well as smell and look. But not too close, because it'll burn your eyeballs out. That's what happened in the next video, but I'm getting away from the main topic here. You gotta listen and hear that sizzle. When it's done, it usually means now you're burning stuff. And keep watching out for those holes. As long as there are no holes, they're crispy outside and not oily inside, we're in business. All this being said though, it's about the taste. And when we're cooking on a budget, you just want it to taste delicious. And if it looks good, even better. And dear experts out there, this was so good. I don't always say that. You know that if it wasn't good, I would tell you on camera and I would declare myself a failure for this video. I would be the first one to say
my disappointment is immeasurable.
But this was good. The onions caramelized and released a sweetness to the beans that was just so delicious. Plus that beefy taste from the bouillon. Ooh, and I didn't oversalt it this time, which is a huge win. And the frying, when you fry this masa, it just hits different, you know? There's something about fried food. It just hits differently. In the end, here's what came out. Delicious fried hand-mashed beans with sweet red onions or caramelized red onions stuffed into handmade fried empanadas. Although they could have been on there for a little bit longer, some of them. Or maybe with more heat. The taste though. The taste of it was nuts. I just can't emphasize enough how delicious this was. Biting into that empanada, getting those beans and red onions out. Woo, it was good. And adding a little bit of salt on there. Plus I had a gordita that I was able to cut in the middle and you can stuff it with stuff. And the pupusas, no. They were a fail, but we will master that one day. This was just the beginning of experiments. Point of all of this, I encourage you, my experts, try cooking on a budget. Do it, especially with these crazy economic times. You gotta save money wherever you can, and this is a good, cheap meal. But I wanna know 3 things, because we're here to learn. What would you have done differently? What am I missing with frying? And should the oil have been hotter? Next week, got a special surprise for you, because we finally have enough things in our pantry that we can invest in real protein. Chicken. Costco chicken. Oh boy, am I excited. We level up to making tacos, flautas, and many other goodies. Thank you for watching. Hope this made your day a little bit better, and I'll see you in the next one.